INEOS strongly considering keeping Erik ten Hag as the Manchester United manager. Kieran McKenna is set to sign a new contract at Ipswich. These are some of the stories we're going to be discussing on this evening's show. But before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on this evening's show. And if this is your first time watching, please subscribe to the channel as well. We will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. I'll have a video for you in the morning, a video for you in the evening, and I will also go live in the day if anything breaks. So if you're into Manchester United and you want to keep on top of all of the latest news throughout the transfer window, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Right, let's get straight on into this then, because this story has dropped like a ton of bricks. Everybody, this is the news that most of you were probably hoping for. It was the news I was hoping for, and I think I should be able to bring a smile to your faces on this Monday bank holiday evening. The headline this evening is that Manchester United are now strongly considering keeping Erik ten Hag as their manager for next season. This is coming out from Samuel Luckhurst from the Manchester Evening News. And then to follow on from that, the same journalist is saying that club officials have notified representatives of potential replacements that they are now considering the possibility of keeping Erik ten Hag. So as I said, this is coming out from Manchester Evening News, Samuel Luckhurst. I know most of the fan base don't like him. I know a lot of the time he puts out dressing room leaks, he puts out toxic stories and stuff. So as soon as I saw this story, I must have thought Samuel Luckhurst must be hating having to write this because he's been so anti-Ten Hag. He is the man who constantly leaks stuff. He's constantly causing trouble. He was banned from the press conferences a couple of months ago because he was putting out what was being described as disruptive, toxic stories. But he is somewhat reliable. He does get his information from, those around the club. That's one person. The next person is Sky Sports. So this is coming from the guy's name is Kaveh Solihull, works for Sky Sports, very reliable journalist. He is reporting that Erik ten Hag will only be replaced as Manchester United manager if the club believe there is a better option out there available. He says that final decision on the future is being made at the moment. He says Ten Hag is waiting for the outcome and he is convinced that he will keep his job and is the best man for the job as well. So let me know what you guys think about that. I completely agree. If we were sat here talking about Carlo Ancelotti, Zinedine Zidane, Pep Guardiola, someone like that to take over, then obviously you would have to consider it. But let's be fair here. We're talking about Poch, 1-0 at Tottenham, went to PSG with a super team and I think failed. Went to Chelsea and has left within a season after winning nothing. We're looking at Graham Potter, did well at Brighton, went to Chelsea and was sacked after 3 months and hasn't had a job since. We're looking at Thomas Tuchel, went to an incredible Bayern Munich side with players like Musiala, Harry Kane, Leroy Sané, Goretzka, Kimmich, Kim Min-jae, etc., etc. Bayern Munich have got an unbelievable side, and Thomas Tuchel won nothing. He got knocked out of the German FA Cup to a team in the second division of German football. He failed. And now, why would we consider him? Thomas Frank, really good manager, has done amazing things at Brentford. But let's be honest, he's a mid-table Premier League manager. He's never won anything in his career. He's not better than Erik ten Hag. And I think that what Kaveh Solihull is saying here is what most of the fan base echo. There isn't a better manager out there to replace Erik ten Hag. People will say Roberto De Zerbi. I think it's a massive risk. I really, really do. And I hope that INEOS have seen the light. They've seen the uproar from the fan base. As I said, 80 to 85% of the fan base seem to be wanting Erik ten Hag to stay. They believe in the project. They've seen what he's done with the youth. He's won us back-to-back trophies for the first time since Sir Alex Ferguson. Yes, there are problems. Yes, his signings are questionable. But we've got this new structure coming in place, right? Which will support Erik ten Hag. It will allow him to focus on the coaching. And it will allow the proper footballing decisions, i.e. the selling and buying of players, to be done by an external panel of people, be it Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada, etc., Jason Wilcox, etc. And that's what needs to happen. Keeping on the topic of that, Melissa Reddy from Sky Sports is reporting this evening that people close to Erik ten Hag have been annoyed by the lack of communication and personal and professional disrespect from Manchester United over his future. I agree with that completely. I've said this many, many times on the show over the last couple of days. I think it's an absolute disgrace the way that the club have handled this story. It's a disgrace that on the eve of our biggest game in 10 years against Man City in the FA Cup, we were talking about Erik ten Hag being sacked. It was an absolute disgrace. It really, really was. And I don't blame Erik ten Hag for being annoyed about how this has been handled. But as we keep saying, guys, right? Erik ten Hag deserves another season, and it looks like he will get this other season. Off the back of that, everyone who's just joined the video, by the way, please smash a like. Let's try and see 250 likes. And make sure you subscribe as well. As I said earlier on in the video, we will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. I'll have a video for you in the morning, a video for you in the evening. And if anything breaks during the day, I always go live as well. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Because, yeah, let's enjoy the summer. I think it's going to be a good summer. We're going to sell lots of players. We're going to do some big deals. And I'm excited to share those moments with you. But keeping on the topic of Erik ten Hag and the managerial situation, there is some big breaking news about Kieran McKenna. Kieran McKenna was the number one target. He was the top of the predictions of who was going to become the new United manager. Manchester United was speaking to him last week. Apparently, his agent met with INEOS last week. But there is a big bit of breaking news that's just dropped. This is coming from David Ornstein. I would say probably the most reliable journalist in football at the moment. Obviously, reports for The Athletic are here in the UK. 2.7 million followers on Twitter. Doesn't put out fake stories. And David Ornstein is reporting breaking news. Kieran McKenna is now expected to sign a new long-term contract with Ipswich Town. So it looks like Kieran McKenna is staying at Ipswich. He will not be coming to Manchester United. That was the name that was mainly getting the focus over the last week. I think Thomas Tuchel's just desperate for a job, to be honest. You've got to be very careful in these situations. Thomas Tuchel has just been let go by Bayern. He was sacked by Chelsea, and he's desperate for a job. Thomas Tuchel's begging. He's absolutely desperate for a job. He wants to come to Manchester United more than Man United want him. And my understanding was that INEOS really wanted Kieran McKenna. He was the person they saw as somebody for the future. And although I want Erik ten Hag to stay, and I'm 100% Erik ten Hag in, out of all of the managers that were available, Kieran McKenna was the only one that I could kind of understand. I still wouldn't have done it, but I could understand their vision. Kieran McKenna is a young manager. He's done well at Ipswich. He's got them back-to-back promotions. He knows Manchester United like the back of his hand. He worked under Jose Mourinho as a coach. He worked under Ollie as a coach. So he knows what it means to be part of Manchester United. But I still think it's too soon. If Kieran McKenna does well at Ipswich, right, and Erik ten Hag doesn't work out, he'd probably be my number one target to replace him. But at the moment, I just think that decision is the wrong time to do it. So Kieran McKenna, about to sign a new contract at Ipswich. That has been confirmed by David Ornstein. So off the back of that, it means that the only people who are available are Thomas Tuchel, who, let's be clear, Thomas Tuchel wants the United job more than United want him. That's very obvious. So there's Thomas Tuchel, there's Thomas Frank, who, let's be honest, was never really an option. I think that was just a name that was thrown into the mix. And Roberto De Zerbi. Roberto De Zerbi is an interesting option, don't get me wrong, but I don't think anybody sat at home can sit there and honestly say Roberto De Zerbi is a better manager than Erik ten Hag. Roberto De Zerbi has won nothing in his professional career. Nothing. And he's been around quite a long time. I know he's been managing Brighton, which aren't obviously and as big a club as Man United, but you know, he's been managing in various different leagues for quite some time. He managed at Shakhtar Donetsk, he managed in the Italian league. He's been a manager since 2013, right? So over 10 years, and he's never won a single trophy. Yes, he's a good manager. Yes, he plays possession-based football. But I would much rather stick with Erik ten Hag. But let's see what people are saying in the comment section. Somebody's saying, can I get a membership? I'll put a link in the chat to get a membership. Sometimes people gift memberships on here, but I don't think there's a way of me giving you a membership, unfortunately. I will drop a link in the chat now, though, if you do want to get one. There you go. I've just dropped a link. Henry says, let's give Ten Hag time. I agree with you, mate, 100%. Battled On says, we definitely need to keep Ten Hag. Brilliant decision. I agree. United since 75 says, Erik stays. We need to get into the top 4 next year, though. I'm going to say this now, right? And I'm going to put my neck on the line here. My expectation for next season is that Erik ten Hag needs to win the Europa League. If we get knocked out of the Europa League in an early round, my opinion of Erik ten Hag might change. Okay? And I'm going to say that now. You can look back on this. You can clip this. You can do whatever you want. I want Erik ten Hag to stay. But my expectation for the next season is that we win the Europa League. That's the minimum for me. We have to win the Europa League. I looked at the other teams who are competing in the Europa League next season, right? The best team, genuinely, is Tottenham. Because the thing you have to remember is the Champions League and the Europa League format has changed. So in the next season, the teams will not drop down from the Champions League. So, usually the third place team in the Champions League group will go into the Europa League. That doesn't happen anymore. So whatever teams are in the Europa League now, that's it. It's not like you'll get a Barcelona or a Napoli or someone dropping down. So at the moment, the best team in the Europa League is us, Man United, and then Tottenham. Erik ten Hag needs to win the Europa League. That would be progress for me. First season, the League Cup and top 4. Second season, the FA Cup and 8th, which is obviously not very good. And then the third season, the bare minimum for me is the Europa League. But I want you guys to let me know in the comment section. Are you expecting Erik ten Hag to win the Europa League? Let me know. Let's have a look at what the odds are for 2024. Why not? Let's have a quick look. So the Europa League, here we go. Where are we? Okay, the odds haven't been put up yet. But Man United will be the favourites to win the Europa League. We have to win the Europa League. That's the very, very minimum. Somebody says, I'm watching from South Africa. Keep Erik ten Hag. I agree with you, mate. Zane says, Sevilla aren't in there. Exactly. Honestly, I've just looked through all of the groups. Tottenham are the best team in the Europa League. And that's saying something. We have to we have to win the Europa League. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Henry says, let's get rid of about 80% of the players. Yeah, that's the thing, right? I want people to be very, very clear on my stance here. I want Erik ten Hag to stay at Manchester United. Okay? I want him to stay. But I don't want Erik ten Hag to have any involvement in the transfers anymore, because I agree. Erik ten Hag's signings have been questionable. Mason Mount was questionable. Anthony was extremely questionable. Some people questioned Rasmus Højlund. I actually like Rasmus Højlund. I don't question that. Onana was questionable. Although I actually think Onana next season is going to have a really good year. But the point I'm trying to make here is, right, Erik ten Hag, no more decision on signings. Okay? He can have some involvement. If they say to him, you can have one of these 3 players, which one do you like the most? Get his input. But Erik ten Hag should not be involved in buying players anymore. Or at least shouldn't have the final say. I'm happy for him to have some minor involvement, but it needs to be Dan Ashworth. It needs to be Omar Barada. It needs to be Jason Wilcox. It needs to be these specialists who decide on the signings, not Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag is clearly a good coach. He's clearly very good at deflecting bad performances. That's one thing I really like about Erik ten Hag, okay? When we lose a game, he doesn't call out the players. He doesn't call out the board. He doesn't say, oh, I didn't get a player. Oh, the Glazers haven't backed me or whatever, like Mourinho did. He takes all of the criticism. Erik ten Hag has got the weight of his world on his back. Now, even if you're Erik ten Hag out, which is fine, I understand the people who want him out. I get it. If you are Erik ten Hag out, I just hope that you'll get behind him. You'll see what he's done to this point today, and you'll back him into the next season. Because I honestly think, guys, this could be the beginning of a very, very positive future for Manchester United. I really, really do think that. I'll come back to the comment section in a minute. Kashif says, can you make a video about who you want to keep and who you want to sell? Yes, that's a really good idea, mate. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do a buy, keep, sell video. So yeah, look out for that tomorrow, guys. Anybody who is new on the channel today, by the way, because I'm seeing a lot of new faces in the comment section, make sure you subscribe. We'll be live throughout the whole transfer window with all of obviously the transfer news and all the rest of it. I'm usually live at 11 in the morning and 6 p.m. in the evening, UK time. And I do live videos as soon as there's breaking news. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Right, keeping on the topic of the manager, there's some more confirmation that apparently Kieran McKenna was the number 1 choice for Man United if Erik ten Hag was going to be sacked. The story says that Manchester United decision makers have come away from the recent round of managerial talks most impressed by Kieran McKenna. It says that Kieran McKenna fits INEOS' criteria for a young manager, as well as being well suited to a head coach role relative to the alternative. So the point I'm trying to get across to you here is, right, INEOS really, really thought that Kieran McKenna was an interesting proposal, which I agree with. He is an interesting proposal. He's done very well at Ipswich, and I think he has a bright future ahead of him. I think he could be a potential Man United manager in the future. I just think at this exact moment in time, when you consider all of the things, keeping Erik ten Hag makes the most sense. Even if you just look at it from a financial perspective, okay? We don't have much money. The debt hasn't been cleared. We apparently only have about 100 million to spend this summer, right? To sack Erik ten Hag, Mitchell van der Gaag, his assistant, and all of the coaches, Steve McLaren, Benny McCarthy, you get rid of all of them, right? It would cost Man United about £10 million. If we were going to have got Kieran McKenna, which we're now not because he's going to sign a new contract at Ipswich, but let's say for argument's sake that INEOS decided they wanted to get Kieran McKenna. His release clause was about £7 million. So to sack Erik ten Hag and bring in Kieran McKenna was going to cost Manchester United £17 million. Now, can they justify to the fan base who want Erik ten Hag to stay that sacking a manager that everybody wants to stay, or the majority want to stay, and bringing in a lesser manager who's never won anything in his career, whilst also having to pay out £17 million, that doesn't make sense to me. £17 million gets you Amrabat. It gets you a player. It might even get you a couple of players. So when you actually look at it from a financial standpoint, it really, really does make a lot of sense. Florian says, Kieran, where are you from in England? I live in Bristol, which is in the southwest. Big ups to all the people with all the nice comments and stuff. Somebody saying, good show. Thank you very much. Somebody says, good idea to the person who says about doing a tier list. I'll do that. Somebody says, Erik ten Hag is a good manager. He has won 2 cups, plus he is only here for 2 seasons. So how can you let a winner go? Then it's clear they don't want a winner. They want a manager who had nothing, who has won nothing. I see what you're trying to say there, mate. I think a lot of the fans think that INEOS wanted a yes man. They wanted a puppet. They wanted someone they could control. They wanted someone who effectively had no authority, had no say on anything, and would do what they wanted. Erik ten Hag isn't that person. Erik ten Hag is a serial winner. He won 3 Eredivisie titles in the row at Ajax. And people will come to me and say, oh, it's the Farmers League. Ha ha ha. It's not a very competitive league. Okay, fair enough. Have that opinion. Erik ten Hag, Ajax are now 5th in the Eredivisie. How does that make sense? That Erik ten Hag wins them 3 Eredivisies in a row. He leaves. The season after he leaves, they get 3rd. And then this season, they've got 5th. You've got Ajax fans smashing up the stadium, protesting. That can't just be a coincidence. That's not just pot luck that a team wins 3 Eredivisies in a row, the manager leaves, and then the team don't win the title for another 2 years in a row. That doesn't just happen. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could smash a like, that would be really, really appreciated. It really helps to bring more people into the channel. So if this is your first time watching, please do smash a like. And please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well. Why not? Right. A little bit more on the manager, and then I will move on from that onto something else, which is quite exciting to talk about. I wanted to talk a little bit about Mason Greenwood actually quickly, because we spoke about him on the show this morning, and it looks like Mason Greenwood has now left Getafe. He put up a statement on his Instagram this morning saying thank you to the Getafe, thank you to the fans, but he is coming back to Manchester. And at the moment, it looks like Mason Greenwood will be back in training. Now, my understanding is it won't be with the first team. It'll be with the under-21s. Similar to what happened with Jadon Sancho. Manchester United still do want to sell Mason Greenwood. And the expectation is that he will still leave Manchester United this summer. But if he doesn't, Manchester United contractually have to train him. He's a Manchester United player. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. He's not going to stay at Getafe. We'll wait and see what happens with that one, though. Henry says Ten Hag is a good coach. Acid says up the Daily Red Devils and up Ten Hag. Yes. Somebody says Ten Hag is a good coach. Keep him. Mr. Tino says Erik ten Hag can handle everything. Toxic environment, injuries, lazy players, divas, old coaches, and he still wins 2 trophies. That's manager quality of Manchester United. Bounce back. Mate, 100%. When you actually break down what Erik ten Hag's had to deal with, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable this season. Marco says, what is your opinion on Amrabat? That's a really good question. I spoke about this a little bit on the show earlier on today, but I'm going to repeat it for you guys now. Anybody who wants to chime in on this, please do get in the live chat. What is your thoughts on Amrabat? And thank you to Marco who asked that question. For me, Amrabat has to stay. Anybody who's unaware, Manchester United will have to pay Fiorentina £17 million in order to sign Amrabat. There's a release clause. We paid Fiorentina a loan fee of £8 million last summer, and if we want to keep him beyond this year, we will have to pay £17 million to Fiorentina. Now, for me personally, it's a no-brainer. The last 4 games against Arsenal, Newcastle, Brighton, and Man City, he has absolutely bossed that midfield. Him and Mainu together look really, really solid. He is an amazing squad player, Sofyan Amrabat. And for £17 million, I think it's a bargain. 27 years of age. He's only 27. He's only 1 year older than Marcus Rashford. That's mad, isn't it? He's only 2 years older than Diogo Dalot. Like, he is pretty young. He's still got 4 years, I reckon, at the top level. Whereas if you look at Casemiro's 32. Casemiro looks likely to move to Saudi this summer. The Saudi clubs are circling for Casemiro's signature. Cristiano Ronaldo wants to reunite with him at Al Nassr. You sell Casemiro to Al Nassr. You get the £30 million that they'll probably be willing to pay, £20 to £30 million. You clear £350,000 from Casemiro's wages, and then you go and buy Amrabat for 17 million. And you will not believe the wages that Amrabat's on. 65,000 a week. I mean, it's mad. It's absolutely crazy that we've got a player of that quality on 65,000 a week who's made a massive impact in our season. And then you've got Casemiro, who's had an absolute stinker, on 350 grand a week. So I know what I would do, but it'll be interesting to see what other people think. Now, just to be very, very clear, Amrabat is not a world-class player. I understand that. But he is a very good squad player. He's definitely a good depth. Eriksen needs to go. Donny van de Beek needs to go. Hannibal needs to go. And Casemiro needs to go. That's 4 midfielders who should be leaving this summer. Eriksen and Casemiro are past their best. Donny van de Beek, I feel bad for him, but it hasn't worked. And Hannibal, maybe he could be a player in the future, but I just don't think he has a future at Man United. Personally, that's 4 players gone. And you need to bring in somebody. We need 2 midfielders. We need Amrabat, and I would probably go for maybe Amadou Onana from Everton. And I would probably look at João Neves from Benfica. If we could get a deal done with good terms. I know he's got a big release clause, but yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Right, let's move on to some more kind of transfer-related topical news, because there is quite a lot to still get through today. Obviously, the players have gone off on holiday now, so it's going to be a little bit quiet until, I think, next week. Next week is when, obviously, the friendlies begin ahead of the Euros. And a lot of these players are going to want to move before the Euro starts. That's the general narrative coming out from most of the kind of agents and stuff. So most of these people will want to know where their futures lie in the next kind of 2 weeks, really, because the Euro starts on June the 14th. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what incomings and outcomings happen in that time. Obviously, the transfer window hasn't officially opened yet. It opens on June the 14th, but deals can happen before that. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And what I want people to let me know is, how many signings do you want this summer? And in what positions? I always like to see what other Man United fans think. So do get in the comment section and let me know what players do you want Man United to sign this summer? Do you think we need a centre-back? Do you think we need a striker? Like, what do you think we need? My opinion, we need a centre-back. We need, I would say, 2 strikers, 2 midfielders, and a left-back. So 6 signings. That would be my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. I think obviously the centre-backs are really important. I think the strikers are really important. And the midfield is really important. Kashif says there is a 6-week holiday. Well, not really, mate, because the Euro starts in 2 weeks. There's friendlies next week. So literally England play a friendlies game a week today. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Somebody says we need 6 signings. Somebody else says we should be signing Todibo, Tosin, Hato, Zubamendi, Fofana, Xerxes this summer. I mean, that would be a really, really strong summer. Will that happen? Probably not. Stephanie says we need a Varane replacement and a Casemiro replacement. Kashif says we don't need 2 strikers. The thing with me is, right, I think we need someone like a Benjamin Sesko, but I think we also need an older option as kind of like a backup. Because what happens if you sign Benjamin Sesko and Rasmus Højlund gets injured? Like, what do you do then? I think Man United over the years have always had 2 or 3 strikers. I think 2 is risky because you could get another Anthony Martial who's just injured forever. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Somebody says, what would you do with Amad Diallo? I'm keeping Amad Diallo 100%. I think he's quality. I think Amad Diallo under Erik ten Hag next season could be a really, really strong force. I think the thing is, right, Erik ten Hag just needs to accept that Anthony was a bad signing, move him on. I think that would earn him a lot more respect in the United fan base, because most people's argument against Erik ten Hag is that he's made bad signings. And it's hard to disagree with that because Anthony was a bad signing. Mason Mount was probably a bad signing. Onana at the time, I think De Gea had just come off winning the Golden Glove. It probably was a bad signing at the time, although I do think Onana is going to come good. And I think, if you look through the players that Erik ten Hag has signed, a lot of them have maybe not been the best. Martinez, unbelievable. Rasmus Højlund, I think, is going to be an absolute world-class player in the future. But kind of other than that, I think most of them have really struggled, haven't they? But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens this summer. Somebody says, what do you think of Santiago Jimenez? I'll be honest with you, mate. I don't know that much about him. I know he's got a release clause of £40 million. I don't think Man United will be in for him, to be honest. I think the strikers we're looking at are Guirassy, Sesko. Those are the kind of two top strikers we're looking at. I think Man United will go for Sesko personally, but that's just my opinion. Amnat says Sesko might be going to Arsenal. Yeah, it's a possibility. Mr. Tino says we need to sign Frankie de Jong to Debo, Xerxes, and another defensive midfielder. Yeah, there is obviously always the potential that de Jong moves this summer. Barcelona are in an absolute financial mess. They're desperate to buy players. Sorry, to sell players. So there is a real possibility that that Frankie de Jong leaves Barcelona this summer. Although there is apparently a strong likelihood that Bayern Munich are going to go in for Frankie de Jong. And I think Frankie de Jong will want Champions League football. If he didn't want to come to Manchester United before, when we were in the Champions League, do we really think he's going to come to Man United in the Europa League? I don't think so personally. But we'll obviously have to wait and see what happens with that one. Kashif says, what do you think about Guirassy? I like Guirassy. I think Guirassy would be a quality signing. £15 million, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. I know for me or you, £15 million is a lot of money. But when you think we spent 70 million on Rasmus Højlund, which I think is going to be proved to be a good signing, 70 million for a player who scored 7 goals in Serie A. Guirassy this season, 28 goals in the Bundesliga in 28 games and 3 assists. Unbelievable. And for 15 million, I think it's an absolute bargain. He's only just turned 28 as well. So he's probably still got 3-4 years left. Sign him, give him a 3 or 4 year contract, and I think he'll earn his weight in gold, to be honest. So yeah, for me, Guirassy is a massive yes. Let's have a look at the results of the poll, though, quickly before I start to wrap up the video. So the question I had for you guys this evening was, is keeping Erik ten Hag the right decision? 94% of you said yes, and 6% of you said no. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. The fans have spoken. 94% of you want Erik ten Hag to stay. That's absolutely crazy. Make sure you spam the comment section with your thoughts, right? Either write Erik ten Hag stay or Erik ten Hag go. Simple. Let me know what you think. Digital Sports Update says, Kieran, is Dan Gore back from loan? Yes, he will be. And my expectation is that Dan Gore will be part of the first team squad next season. He won't be a starter, but he will be a bench player. So that's another midfield option. My preference is this, right? Sign Amrabat, promote Dan Gore, and then sign a more established midfielder, whether that's Amadou Onana, Frankie de Jong, João Neves from Benfica. One of those kind of 3 or 4 names. So we effectively get 3 new midfielders. You have Amrabat, Dan Gore, plus another more established name. You get rid of Eriksen, you get rid of Casemiro, you get rid of Donny, and you get rid of Hannibal. I mean, it's simple, isn't it? It's simple. And I'm not a football director of football. I'm just a guy sat in front of a camera. Let's have a look. Everybody in the chat saying, Erik ten Hag stay, Erik ten Hag stay. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Don't you worry. Right. It's been an amazing show. Let's have a look. Let me see if there's any other comments quickly before I wrap up the video. Everyone who's just joined, by the way, make sure you smash a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Get involved in the channel. Let me just double check if there's any other news that I wanted to bring you guys this evening. There seems to be so much new stuff coming out every kind of 10 or so minutes around Man United. So I'm trying to keep my eyes on it all and bring you any news that happens. But yeah, it looks like Erik ten Hag will be staying. Kieran McKenna is signing a new contract at Ipswich. That's the main headline of the video. So obviously I'll keep you updated, but that's where it's looking like it's going to go. Erik will stay. Kieran McKenna will go to stay at Ipswich. Chelsea are going to sign the Leicester manager. God knows what will happen to Thomas Tuchel. He'll probably still be begging for the United job. And Roberto De Zerbi, he's a quality manager. He'll find a job somewhere else, but I don't think he's ready for Man United personally. The same with Thomas Frank. He's a quality manager, but Thomas Frank isn't a Manchester United level manager. I'm sorry. He's just simply not. And anybody who thinks he is, doesn't make sense to me, but that's fine. Anyway, big ups to all of you. I hope you have a great evening. I will be back live at 11 a.m. UK time tomorrow. Make sure you smash a like before you go. It really helps to bring more people into the channel. It helps us to do bigger and better things. And make sure you subscribe as well. As I said, I'll be live throughout the whole transfer window, so make sure you get involved here on Daily Red Devil. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the show tonight, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.